Welcome to Creepy Vibes. Today, we're not just talking about late-night pizza runs, we're diving into something much darker. These are 20 true Texas pizza delivery horror stories, disturbing tales from forgotten towns, haunted houses, and roads that never existed on any map. From drivers who never came back to doors that opened by themselves. Every delivery in this list ended in something far worse than a cold tip. But before we begin, here's something strange. Most people make one big mistake. They leave without subscribing. And by doing that, they miss the most chilling stories we deliver. Stories that don't just scare, they stick with you. So don't be one of them. Hit that subscribe button right now. Because today's deliveries aren't just hot. They're haunted. Where are you watching from? And what time is it there right now? Tell us in the comments, because no matter the hour, the next knock on your door might be your final order. Now, grab a slice, turn the volume up, and step inside the shadows of 20 true Texas pizza delivery horror stories. The ticket came through the system like any other. 11:47 p.m., 10 minutes before close, Gainesville, Texas. Frank's Pizza had already shut down the oven and started cleaning, but this order popped up fully paid. Large pepperoni, garlic knots, 2 canned sodas, and a $20 tip. Nobody ignores a $20 tip, especially not Joey Runnels. Joey had just turned 19. Still had braces he never finished paying for. Drove a wheezing '03 Civic with an UX cord dangling out the side like a dying limb. He worked delivery 5 nights a week to afford college books he hadn't opened once. He liked working alone. He liked the dark. It never judged. He glanced at the receipt and raised an eyebrow. Farmhouse 183? Is that even real? Frank, the manager, didn't answer right away. He stood over the sink, scrubbing a pan like it had personally insulted him. "It's out on the Turner land," Frank muttered without turning. "Up past county line. Take the dirt road by the burned-out silo." "Can't miss it," Joey frowned. "The Turner place? Thought that was condemned." Frank finally turned and dried his hands, but he didn't look Joey in the eye. "Just drop it off. Don't hang around." That should have been warning number 1. But Joey, cocky with caffeine and youth, nodded and shoved the pizza into the warming bag. Outside, the Texas air was like soup, thick, wet, and smelling faintly of creosote and old rain. The drive out past county line was blacker than sin. The GPS lost signal before he even hit the turnoff. The trees lining the road looked skeletal in his headlights, their limbs reaching for the windshield like fingers that wanted to whisper. He passed a sign that had once said, "Turner property, no trespassing ever." Now so rusted the letters looked like they were bleeding. The house appeared like it had grown out of the earth itself. 2 stories leaning, cloaked in ivy and shadows. The upstairs window glowed with a dim flickering light, not yellow. Like a bulb, but orange and twitchy, like fire seen through fog. Joey parked next to a dry well. The air outside was still. Too still. No wind, no frogs, no cicadas. Just a silence so deep it rang in his ears. He carried the pizza to the front porch, the boards groaning underfoot. The door looked older than the town, painted red but worn down to gray bones. He knocked once, twice. "Pizza delivery." He called. The door creaked open with a sound like someone dragging nails across wood. Not wide, just enough for a glimpse. A narrow hallway, wallpaper peeling in long strips, an overhead bulb swinging without a breeze. From inside, a voice answered, "Come in." Leave it by the stairs. He should have turned around. Should have left it on the porch and walked away. But something about the voice, soft, slow, like it hadn't spoken in years, pulled at him. Not hypnotic, not magic. Just wrong. He stepped in. The air changed instantly. freezing cold like walking into a meat locker. The walls were lined with old family portraits, but every face had been scratched out. Deep gashes where smiles used to be. One photo caught his eye, a group picture, maybe from the 50s, a tall woman in the center. And behind her, nearly out of frame, something hunched and faceless, with a hand resting on her shoulder. Joey's fingers tingled. The pizza box felt heavier now. He moved forward. The stairs loomed ahead, crooked, bending left. He knelt to place the box on a side table and froze. A whisper. Not from upstairs. From under the stairs. I smell him. Joey spun around. Nothing there. Then the light above him flickered. Once, twice. Out. In total darkness. He heard footsteps upstairs. Slow. Deliberate. Something that wasn't hurrying because it didn't need to creak, creak, each step lower. Not human pacing. Something else. A rhythm made for crawling things. He moved backwards toward the door, heart jackhammering. But it was gone. Not just closed, gone. Behind him was a blank wall, and then came the sound. Not footsteps, breathing. Wet, thick and bubbling. Like lungs full of something that shouldn't be in lungs. He turned toward the stairs. At the top was a figure. A woman, or what had once been a woman, thin in a lace dress that trailed down like it was underwater. Her face was covered by a veil, but something underneath twitched. Pulsed. "Thank you," she whispered. "She's been hungry." Joey ran. Crashed through the hallway, now longer than it should have been. The walls stretched, the shadows bending toward him. He screamed and slammed into the kitchen door. It gave way, sending him sprawling into the backyard, but the yard was wrong. Too big, too quiet. No moon, no trees. He looked back. There was no house. No porch. No Turner Place. Just the well. And beside it, a single girl standing barefoot, white dress soaked in something dark. Her mouth opened too wide. Too wide. "Thank you," she said, echoing her mother. Joey ran to his car, hands shaking, eyes stinging with sweat and terror. The keys slipped once, twice. He finally got the engine roaring. All 4 tires were shredded. Not popped, chewed. He slept in the car that night, doors locked, every light on. At dawn, the landscape had changed. No house, no well, just open field. He found a receipt tucked under his wiper blade. Same order, same time stamp. On the back, scrawled in something brown, "Next time, stay for dessert." And a photograph. Joey on the porch of a house that didn't exist, pizza box in hand. His smile stretched ear to ear, and his eyes completely white. The last delivery of the night came just after midnight. The ticket flashed on the old, cracked screen above the register at Bronco Pizza, a little shop tucked between a smoke shop and a pawn store on the edge of Denton, Texas. Jesse Martin was already halfway through cleaning his car when the printer coughed up the receipt. "Medium sausage and green pepper," said Matt, the shift manager, scratching his scalp beneath a greasy cap. "Big tip. Paid online. You want it or not?" Jesse glanced at the address. Dawson Hollow Road. He paused. "That's gotta be a mistake," Matt shrugged. "They paid. GPS works?" "Barely." "Then go." "You're 22, not 62. Jesse wasn't scared of night deliveries. Hell, half the fun of the job was the quiet, the roads no longer packed with commuters or screaming moms. But Dawson Hollow was out past the normal zone. No lights, no cell towers. No reason for a pizza to be heading that far out unless someone was too broke or too crazy to drive into town. Still, it was $15 in tips and gas money was due. Jesse grabbed the box, threw on a hoodie, and got in the car. The night swallowed him by the time he passed the edge of Denton, past the university, past the bars, past the last lonely Whataburger pulsing orange in the dark. Dawson Hollow started as pavement and ended as something less than gravel. Dust kicked up in waves behind his Civic, and the trees on either side of the road leaned too close like they were listening. His GPS spun, then blinked out entirely. No service. He drove another 2 miles following his gut until he saw it. Single red porch light burning at the edge of a clearing. No other houses nearby, no mailboxes, no power lines. Just the red glow, deep and throbbing like a slow pulse. He parked on the roadside. No driveway, no dogs barking, no bugs buzzing. The only sound was his own breath in the cold night air. The house was small, 1 story, maybe built in the 40s. The paint had peeled away in strips, revealing warped wood and old scars of water damage. The red light hung from the eaves like a wound. Jesse stood at the porch and knocked. No answer. He knocked again. Bronco Pizza. From inside came a voice. Low, female, raspy, like the speaker had just woken up from a long sleep. Come in. It's open. He hesitated. Then the door opened on its own, slowly, without a creak. Inside was darkness, punctuated by a hallway dimly lit by a single overhead bulb that swung slowly, even though there was no wind. The smell hit him first. Old damp carpet, mold, something sweeter underneath, spoiled meat and lavender. Hello? He called. Your pizza's here. Bring it down the hall, the voice called again, from somewhere deeper inside. Please. Against his better judgment, Jesse stepped inside. The door shut behind him. Not slammed, it just eased closed with a soft click. The hallway was lined with wallpaper that had rotted in place. Family photos hung crooked. Most were black and white, old-fashioned, and in each one, the eyes had been scratched out. Not faded, scratched. You could still see the gouges in the paper. Jesse's fingers tightened around the pizza box. The smell was stronger here, like wet towels left to fester in a closed trunk. He took a step. The carpet squished underfoot. Another step. He passed a room on his right. In the dark, something moved, fast. He turned, looked in. Just an empty couch. But he could have sworn. The hallway seemed to stretch the farther he walked. The overhead light buzzed, then he heard it, a faint sound. Breathing, not from in front of him. From behind, he turned. The hallway was empty. The door at the front, gone. The photographs had changed. They weren't families anymore. They were delivery drivers standing on porches, faces pale, eyes wide. In every photo, someone stood behind them in the shadow, smiling. He tried the nearest doorknob, locked. Another door creaked open at the far end of the hall. The red light pulsed through it like a heartbeat. Thank you for the pizza, the voice whispered. But it wasn't coming from a person. It was coming from everywhere. He walked toward the light. Inside was a small bedroom. A rocking chair moved. Slowly in the corner, though no one sat in it. On the bed was an open box, not a coffin, not exactly. More like a crate. Inside it was a girl, pale, waxy skin, eyes shut, dressed in a white nightgown that looked older than his grandmother. Her hair was too perfect, her hands folded. She's been waiting. The voice said. From behind the door, the woman emerged. Jesse didn't even hear her approach. She was tall, dressed in faded pink, like someone had pulled her out of a 1950s Sears catalog. But her smile was wrong, too tight, too fixed. And her eyes weren't eyes, they were just black holes. Empty. She likes visitors, she whispered. Jesse backed away, stumbling over his own feet. He dropped the pizza. The box opened, steaming in the middle of the moldy carpet. He didn't see the girl move, but suddenly her eyes were open. Black, solid, hungry. Don't go, she said. Stay for dessert. Jesse turned and ran. He slammed into the hallway, but the walls pulsed like flesh now. He heard whispers, laughter. The door at the end blinked in and out of reality, sometimes closer, sometimes miles away. He screamed. No one answered. He made it to the door after what felt like hours. When he burst out, the night slapped him hard. The car was still there, but the tires had deflated. The glass fogged over like someone had been inside breathing hard. He drove on the rims. Sparks flew into the dark. He didn't care. The house disappeared behind him. No porch light, no road signs. Just silence. When he got home, he quit his job, blocked the app, moved back in with his mom for the rest of the summer. But a week later, a pizza showed up at his door. Unmarked box. No driver. He opened it. Inside wasn't a pizza dot, it was a photograph. Black and white. Old, curled at the edges dot. It showed him standing in front of the red porch light, but in the photo, he was smiling, and someone was standing behind him. The delivery came in late, real late. Donnie Martinez was already halfway through mopping the front tile of Jackal's Slice when the printer coughed out one last receipt. It was 12:22 a.m. The oven was cooling, the sauce buckets already scrubbed. Down. Marlene was counting quarters in the register, humming that same Fleetwood Mac song she played every night. Donnie wiped sweat from his forehead and glanced at the slip without much interest, until he saw the address. Mile marker 204, Highway 191, just past Old Ranch Road. He squinted. Is that real? Marlene didn't look up. What the Hatcher? Place? Yeah, it's been out there since before my mama was born. He stared at the ticket. No customer name, no phone number. Just cash on delivery and a note, use back door. I've been out that way before, she said, still counting. Old house, no lights. Don't think they got power. You'll know it by the windmill and the mailbox with the name painted on it. Big white letters. Can't miss it. Donnie. Didn't say anything. He felt something tighten inside his chest. A little cramp of instinct. The kind that says don't go. He should have listened, but he didn't. The clock ticked. The pizza was already boxed. The last delivery of the night. He told himself it was just a job. Grab the cash, hand off the pie. Be back before 1 a.m. He slid. Behind the wheel of his beat-up Ford Escort, half dead already from the day's heat. The headlights were dim, the AC long since busted. He pulled onto the highway, rolled down the window, and let the warm desert air slap against his face. West Texas stretched out before him like a bad dream, long, flat, and endless. Highway 191 was an old beast of a road, straight as a rifle. Barrel. The kind of place where people went missing and nobody noticed for weeks. The last streetlight flickered out behind him at mile marker 199. Beyond that, there was nothing, no music, no signal, no wind. Just the dry hiss of the tires and the occasional groan of the engine protesting every mile dot by 202. He was gripping the wheel too hard dot at 203. The radio crackled. Static at first dot then. Whispering dot soft. Not a language. Not even words. Just voices. Low. Urgent. Breathing. He slapped the radio off. Checked his phone. No bars dot then he saw dot mile marker 204. There it was, just like Marlene said. A tall, dead windmill against the moonlit sky. A crooked white mailbox, with Hatcher painted in cracked black letters. The gravel road curved inward like a tongue leading to a house that looked like it had been forgotten by time itself. 2 stories. Wood peeled bare. Shingles missing. Porch sagging under its own weight. One yellow light burned in the back window. Not electric. More like firelight. Candle maybe. Donnie's pulse ticked up. But he didn't turn around. He was a delivery driver. He had a job. He pulled in. The wheels crunched dry gravel as he rolled to a stop. There were no other vehicles. No signs of life. Just the windmill groaning quietly above, turning even though there was no breeze. He stepped out. The air smelled like dust and rusted metal. He grabbed the pizza and walked slowly up the porch steps, which creaked like ribs under pressure. He knocked. Once. No answer. Then again. Pizza delivery. Still nothing. He turned the knob. It turned too easily. Inside, the house was cold. Not chilly. Cold. Like walking into a freezer. A single oil lamp burned near the far wall, casting long, shaking shadows. Everything inside was old. Dusty. Yellowed. The furniture was covered in sheets, and the wallpaper peeled in long, curling strips that hung from the ceiling like dead skin. He took a cautious step inside. The door swung closed behind him without a sound. There was no hallway, just a large open room, and at the far end, beside the fire, stood a man. Tall, thin, dressed in a white shirt with suspenders. He looked like something from a sepia photograph. "You're late," the man said, though. His mouth barely moved. Donnie held up the box. "You ordered the meat lovers?" The man tilted his head. "We've been waiting." Something about his voice made Donnie's stomach turn, like it was being broadcast from somewhere deeper, somewhere underground, from the shadowed corner of the room. Another figure emerged. A woman. She didn't walk. She glided. Her feet never touched the floor. She wore a white dress, long and stained. Her skin was thin, translucent in places, like a jellyfish. Her mouth was open, eyes wide, but she didn't speak. Instead, her head ticked sideways like a broken clock. Then a third figure moved. A child. A girl in a nightgown, eyes glowing faintly, with a light that wasn't natural. She pointed at Donnie. "He's the one," she said. Her voice was high, sweet, and completely empty. The man stepped forward, arms extended. "You'll stay for supper." Donnie backed up, heart hammering now. "Nope, no, I'm out." The door was gone, not locked. Not closed. Gone. In. Its place was a blank wooden wall, smooth and cold. He spun. The room was changing. The light dimmed. The walls stretched outward, bending like rubber. The woman floated toward him. The man smiled, revealing teeth too long for his mouth. Donnie ran. He barreled through a curtain, down a hallway that hadn't been there before. Pictures hung on the walls, but not of the house. Not of the family. They were delivery drivers. Dozens of them. Each one frozen in a moment. Standing on the porch, pizza in hand, faces pale, eyes wide, smiles forced, all of them looking past the camera as if someone, or something, was behind the lens. He tripped over something soft. It was a uniform shirt. Same brand as his. Same company. It was soaked in something dark and dry and crusted. A name tag still clung to the collar. Tommy. He screamed. Didn't remember doing it. He just screamed and ran and screamed again, and somehow he burst through the side of the house into night air, choking and gasping. His car was still there, but it wasn't right. The tires were melted, not slashed. Melted into the gravel. And the windshield had a handprint on the inside. Small. Child size. He drove anyway. Didn't care about the rims or the sparks flying behind him. He didn't stop until dawn, didn't breathe until the sun crested. Over the flatlands and birds began to sing. When he got back to Jackal's, Marlene was gone. A different guy was on the register. Said he didn't know any. Marlene didn't know about any delivery order to mile marker 204. Didn't know anyone named Donnie either. That was 2 years ago. Every once in a while he dreams of the girl, the child, standing beside his car with the box in her hands, looking up at him, waiting, every time he moves. The dreams follow, every time, every night, every time he tries to forget, because some roads, you don't just drive down, some roads drive down you, and mile marker 204, it's still out there, waiting for the next driver who doesn't listen to their gut. Wichita Falls wasn't big, but it had enough pizza orders on a Friday night to keep Darren moving. He'd been working at Hot Wheel Pizza for 2 years, enough time to stop using GPS, enough time to know which neighborhoods tipped and which didn't, and enough time to develop a strict rule for himself. No apartment. Deliveries after 11 p.m., too many drunk college kids. Too many busted elevators. Too many weird things you couldn't explain afterward. But on a muggy night in August, Darren broke his rule. It was the tip that got him. The order came in just as he was clocking out. A large double cheese, 2 liters of grape soda, and a $40. Tip cash. The girl on the phone said she was alone, scared of the thunder outside, and begged him to bring it up to her door. Apartment 3B, East Ridge Apartments, near the edge of town. He hesitated. That building was half abandoned. He remembered a fire there years ago, thought it had been shut down. But when he asked the manager, the guy shrugged. That complex still pops up sometimes. Don't ask me how. It's not in the computer system, but the driver app shows it. Darren drove out past the Circle K, where the streetlights got dimmer and the roads felt less paved. Thunder rolled over the sky, thick and slow like a sleeping giant turning in. It's bed. Rain hadn't started yet, but the smell was heavy in the air. He pulled up to East Ridge Apartments. It looked worse than he remembered. 3 buildings, each 3 stories high. One of the buildings had boarded windows. Another had graffiti, so old it had faded to pale ghosts. The third, Building C, had a single porch light burning on the second floor, flickering like it was trying to stay alive. That was where 3B was. He got out of the car, pizza bag in one hand, and jogged through the open gate. No other cars. In the lot, no sound except wind and distant thunder. Inside, the stairs creaked like wet bones. The second floor smelled like mold and cat piss. Wallpaper hung like dead skin. Darren climbed to the 3rd level, and that's when things went off. The numbers on the doors were wrong. 3A, 3C, 3D, no 3B. He stood in the hallway, heart starting to thump. He looked again. 3B wasn't there. Then the light above him popped. Not slowly, violently. The hallway went dark. He turned to head back down, and that's when he saw it. A door at the end of the hall. It hadn't been there a second ago. Rusty. Brass numbers. 3B. He felt his knees lock. The hallway was silent, but something about the air changed. It was thicker, like it had mass, like something in the dark was holding its breath, waiting to exhale. He stepped to the door and knocked. A girl answered, maybe 20. Pale skin, long, flat black hair. Her eyes were swollen like she'd been crying. You're late, she whispered. The door wasn't here, Darren said, his voice dry. She stepped aside. I was starting to think you wouldn't come. Inside was an apartment like any other. A couch, a TV, a table. But something was off. The furniture was too new, like it had been staged. No clutter, no dishes, no smell of food, no pizza smell either, even though he was still holding the box. The girl sat down cross-legged on the carpet and looked at him. I just didn't want to eat alone, she said. Darren cleared his throat. Right. $14.85, she smiled. He didn't remember blinking, but when his eyes opened again, she was closer. On her knees now, face inches from his. Her eyes were darker, too dark. No reflection, no moisture. Have you ever thought about what it feels like to starve in silence? She asked. He stepped back, pizza dropping from his hands. The apartment began to flicker. Not the lights, the space. The walls twitched. The shadow stretched out, and suddenly, the girl was gone. He was standing in a burned-out, ruined walls black with soot ceiling half collapsed. The couch was a pile of cinders. The TV a melted frame. The carpet was charred bone dust under his feet. There was no girl, but there had been. He could still feel the cold spot where she'd stood. He turned to run. The door wasn't behind him. It was a wall now. In the corner. A hole opened in the floor. A dark mouth that breathed cold air upward. And from it came voices. Whispers. Screams. Laughter. Darren backed into the ruined kitchen and grabbed the sink for balance. It was full of human teeth. No blood. Just teeth. Hundreds of them. He turned and screamed, and then he was outside, standing in the parking lot, soaked in sweat, shaking. The pizza bag was still in his hand, but the box was empty. Back at the shop, the manager gave him a weird look. Thought you bailed. What happened? I delivered it to 3B. The manager paused. There is number 3B. Darren pulled up the address on his phone. The Eastridge listing had vanished. Gone. No record of the building. Not even on Google Maps. That night, he quit. Left town the week after. Never made another delivery again. But 6 months later, a new hire took a call at Hot Wheel Pizza. Girl said she was alone. Scared of the thunder. Asked for extra cheese and grape soda. Said her apartment was 3B. And this time, the driver never came back. Only thing they found was a pizza box, soaked through by the rain. Sitting at the edge of the parking lot. Inside was a single human tooth. It was 9:38 p.m. when Travis Hughes got the call that would end his pizza delivery career forever. He'd been working at Red Buck Pizza in Tyler, Texas, for almost a year, long enough to know the shortcuts through trailer parks, which college. Kids stiffed you on tips and how to keep the car running even when the radiator begged for death. He was only 23, but the lines under his eyes made him look older. Pizza delivery wasn't his passion, it was survival. Since his dad died last spring, his mom couldn't work, and Travis was the only thing standing between her and eviction. Shift was slow, just drizzle and highway noise outside. Then the printer CHIRPED. Last ticket of the night. One large meat lovers. Tip. $10. Cash on delivery. But what caught his attention was the note scribbled on the slip. Please don't knock. Just flash your headlights. I'll meet you in the driveway. Weird. Not too weird. Sometimes single women requested stuff like that. Didn't want to open doors late at night, especially in Tyler, where news of break-ins was as common as church. Signs. Travis took the pie and rolled out in his beat-up Camry, tires singing on wet asphalt as he passed the closed shops, flickering streetlights, and fading neighborhoods. The address was at the end of a dead-end street on the edge of town, Larkspur Lane, a quiet row of brick homes with cracked driveways and old fences that leaned like they were tired of standing. He pulled up slowly. The house was almost swallowed in darkness. No porch light. No car in the driveway. The only light came from the far back window, glowing a soft yellow through half-open blinds. Travis flashed his headlights once. Twice. 3 times. Nothing. He sighed. Drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. Then she stepped out from the shadows, a woman in a white robe. She came from the side of the house where no path or gate led, walking barefoot on the wet concrete, slow and silent. Her hair was black and thin, draped like wet threads over her shoulders. Her face was wrong. At first glance, it looked calm, peaceful. But the more Travis stared, the more it felt like a mask. Her skin was pale in a way that wasn't natural. Not pale like fair-skinned, but colorless, like something drained. She walked toward the car without blinking. Travis got out, holding the pizza. You order meat lovers? The woman stopped at the edge of the headlights. Then she spoke, soft, dry. Her voice cracked like leaves underfoot. Did you see it? Travis blinked. Sorry? Her eyes stayed locked on his. Did you see what followed you? His spine stiffened. He turned. Just the empty street. Trees swaying slightly. No cars. No people. Nothing. I didn't notice, she interrupted him. You brought it here. What? She stepped forward, her voice trembling now. Not with fear, with warning. It doesn't always ride inside the car. Sometimes it crawls underneath, clings to the oil pan. Sometimes it waits in the back seat. And when you flash the headlights, it knows you're offering. Travis laughed nervously. Okay, look, I don't know if this is some prank but I'm just trying to do my job, all right? The woman looked down. Her hands were trembling now. I didn't order this, she whispered. Then she turned and walked back toward the side of the house, disappearing into the shadows as if swallowed. Travis just stood there. The street was too quiet. He felt cold. Despite the humidity, a crawling kind of cold that started at the base of his spine and moved up his neck like icy fingers pressing softly. He turned to get back in the car and stopped. The rear passenger door was open. He hadn't opened it. He was sure he hadn't. He walked around slowly, looked inside. Empty. Nothing on the seat, nothing on the floor, but there was a smell like stagnant pond water and burnt plastic, mixed with something worse, something sweet and rotting. He reached down, grabbed the pizza from the hood where he'd left it, tossed it onto the passenger seat, and slammed the door shut. He drove fast, didn't breathe properly until he hit the Exxon station 2 miles away, parked under the harsh white lights and just sat there, gripping the wheel with white knuckles. Then he looked into the rearview mirror. And froze. There was a face behind him. Just for a second. No features. Just hollow eye sockets and stretched, sagging skin. Then it was gone. He twisted in his seat. Back seat. Empty. Nothing there. He left the car running and threw up behind the dumpster. That night, Travis couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house made him flinch. He didn't tell his mom. He didn't tell his manager. The next day, he told himself he imagined it all. Except that pizza was never paid for. When the manager checked the records, there was no order. From Larkspur Lane. Worse, the address didn't exist in their delivery zone. There was no house at the end of that cul-de-sac. Just trees, old trees, and an empty lot where no one had lived in years. Travis quit that night, moved out of Tyler 3. Months later, he doesn't talk about it anymore, but sometimes, when he's on the road at night, he checks the rearview mirror a little too often because the woman said something he hasn't forgotten. Sometimes it rides inside the car, but sometimes it stays behind and waits for the next one. For the longest time, Edgar never believed in ghosts. He didn't even believe in things like déjà vu or fate or anything that couldn't be measured by weight, sound, or logic. He was a mechanic in Abilene, Texas, a place where things break and you fix them. There was no place for fantasy in a world where grease-stained hands and cracked bolts kept people moving. But then came the delivery job. He took the side gig after the auto shop cut hours and bills kept stacking. He told himself it was temporary. Just a few weeks at Grady's Pizza until things picked up again. He'd drive at night, keep to himself, listen to old rock on the radio. Most nights were slow. 1 or 2 orders, maybe 3. He liked the solitude. The long, empty roads around Abilene gave him space to breathe. It was Thursday when the order came through. A new name popped up on the screen. No prior record. Paid in advance. Cash tip. 1 large pepperoni and a bottle of root beer. Address. A ranch house just outside Hawley, down a 2-lane stretch most people avoided after dark. The house didn't come up on GPS. The app showed a blinking red dot floating past the grid. No road names, no satellite view. Just coordinates and a note: drive until the fence ends. Gate will be open. Edgar wasn't new to odd deliveries. He'd brought pies to oil fields, gas stations, even one to a drunk guy sitting in a deer, blind with night vision goggles. But this one felt strange in a different way. It didn't feel drunk or redneck or weird. It felt off, like someone whispering in a language you almost recognize. Still, he needed the money. He loaded the pizza, cracked his window, and drove north into the kind of night that feels too quiet. The stars were out, but the moon was gone. Just a heavy black sky stretching over flat land and rusted fence posts. He found the gate just where the app said. It stood wide open, hanging from one hinge. A gravel path led off into tall grass. The fence ended there, choked by thorns and vines. No lights, no sign. He drove slowly, headlights cutting through dust that danced in tight spirals like it had its own breath. Trees bent toward the road. Not like they were growing that way, like they were watching. The house appeared, like a shape in fog. Not built so much as placed. A long, 1-story structure with paint blistering off in curls. 2 windows glowed dim behind thick curtains. There was no porch light. No car in the gravel drive. Just a figure standing still in the doorway. Edgar stopped the car, turned off the ignition, and grabbed the pizza. When he looked back up, the figure was gone. He stood there, keys in one hand, box in the other, unsure if he imagined it. Then the door creaked open, slow and dragging like something heavy behind it. A voice called from inside. Not loud, not friendly. Come in. He stepped forward. The door remained open. Inside, the house was dimly lit by a flickering bulb that swung from a chain in the hallway. Wallpaper peeled like old skin. The floor sagged in the middle, boards stained darker in a long path that led around a corner. He cleared his throat. Pizza delivery, the voice came again. Set it on the dining table. There was a narrow archway to the right. The dining room lay beyond it, choked in shadows. The table was set, not like someone had just eaten, but like someone had been waiting. Old china plates, silverware polished to a dull gray. 6 chairs. One pulled out. He placed the pizza box in the center. And turned out the room changed that it wasn't immediate. It was slow, like a thought forming in the dark. The hallway was longer than before. The bulb was gone. In its place hung something like a rope. No, a braid. Human hair, twisted and tied to a nail in the ceiling. He stepped back, heart racing. The front door was gone. Not closed. Gone. There was no opening, just a wall. No seams. No doorknob. Just faded wallpaper stretching into shadows. He ran toward where it should have been and slammed his hands against the wall. The surface rippled. Not solid. Not liquid either. Something in between. Behind him. A sound, silverware clinking. He turned. All 6 chairs at the dining table were now filled. Figures sat motionless, draped in black cloth. Faces covered. Hands pale and folded. Their heads turned slowly in unison. Toward him, one of them whispered. Edgar couldn't make out the words. Another raised a hand and pointed at him. Then the table began to move. It slid slowly across the floor, chairs dragging behind like puppets on strings. Plates rattled. The pizza box trembled. He ran down the hallway, which now seemed to stretch like rubber. Doors opened as he passed, not into rooms, but into darkness. Complete black voids, where something moved just beneath the surface. One door opened. A child's voice cried out, "Help me." He stopped. The voice came again, "Please." He turned the doorknob. Inside was a room filled with mirrors. Every wall reflected his face, but none of the faces moved the same way. Some blinked too slowly. Some didn't blink at all. One version of him grinned. Another wept. He slammed the door shut, kept running. Another hallway. Another voice. Edgar. He didn't tell them his name. Edgar. He turned a corner and stopped cold. The figure from the doorway was standing in front of him, now. Closer. Visible. It wore his face, but aged, wrinkled, eyes sunken, mouth bruised. It didn't breathe. "You brought it with you," it said. "It's hungry." Then its face split open, not like a wound, like a zipper. A vertical line from forehead to chin peeled apart, revealing nothing inside, just teeth. Teeth all the way down. Edgar screamed and backed away. He stumbled into the dining room again. The figures were gone. Only one plate remained. On it, his car keys. They were slick with something thick and red. He reached out, took them. The room blinked. He stood outside again. Car parked where he left. House behind him silent. No lights. He drove home in silence. The pizza bag was gone. His hands were shaking. His shirt smelled of smoke. He told no one. Not even when the nightmare started. Not even when he began waking up with muddy footprints on his carpet. Not even when he found a second set of car keys on his nightstand, keys to a car he'd never owned. They never found Grady's Pizza again. The shop vanished a week later. The app deleted itself from his phone. He doesn't deliver anymore. But sometimes, when he's driving late at night, he sees a house at the end of a dirt road that isn't on any map. And he knows it's waiting for someone else, for someone who doesn't believe in ghosts. Not yet. The lake didn't like headlights. That's what Donnie heard from the old men at the gas station near Pilot Point. They'd sip black coffee out of styrofoam cups, watching fishermen tow their empty boats back up the hill and murmur things like, "Sunlight keeps it still," or "Don't shine your beams past 10, draws it out." He never believed that crap, even after living in Denton 10 years. But he did remember the way they looked when they said it. Not laughing. Not even smirking. Just remembering something they didn't want to say out loud. He wasn't scared of the water. Not really. He'd grown up near Galveston Bay, spent more time in bayous and under bridges than in church pews. But Lake Ray Roberts was different. Quiet. Too big. Too deep in some parts. And it had that kind of stillness that felt like it was watching you. That night, he was just supposed to make a delivery to a cabin off FM 455. Nothing unusual. Large Canadian bacon, 2 root beers, prepaid. $20 tip. GPS said the customer was waiting at the far end of one of the last lakefront access roads, where the pavement stopped and turned to gravel, and even gravel gave up into dirt. Donnie was tired. He'd done 5 deliveries already, the last one, to a trailer that smelled like boiled socks. His car was making that low whining noise again, the one the mechanic said could be the serpentine belt or something worse, if it's feeling mean. But $20 was $20. He took the order, threw on a hoodie, and hit the road. The farther he drove, the darker it got. Not just outside, inside too. Like the dome light dimmed every time he passed a certain patch of trees. His phone signal dropped somewhere near the north ramp. The GPS rerouted twice, then froze. He followed the instructions as best he could, trusting the customer's note, look for the dead tree with 1 branch. Where the second cabin passed it, he saw it after 10 minutes. A gnarled tree that looked like it had been struck by lightning decades ago and never forgiven God for it. Just beyond it was a dirt path that wound down toward the lake. His headlights caught the water. That was the first time he felt it. A shift, not wind, not temperature. Something in the air, like a smell without scent or a sound without noise. The surface of the lake didn't ripple. It twitched, just once. A twitch like something deep. Under there had flexed. Donnie slowed down. The first cabin was abandoned. Half the porch was gone, door flapping in the wind like a loose jaw. The second cabin sat farther back, closer to the water, one dim lantern glowing in the window. He pulled. Up and stopped. Headlights hit the front of the house, and the water twitched again. He turned off the car. Left the engine running. Got out with the pizza box in one hand and the root beers under his arm. The porch creaked under his feet. Before he could knock, the door opened on its own, not slowly, not with a horror movie squeal, just silently. Like it was used to people coming and going, like it had opened for others. He stood at the threshold. The inside smelled like damp clothes and lemon cleaner. Someone had lit a candle in the middle of a long wooden table. 3 chairs were placed around it. Only one was occupied. An old woman sat in the left chair. She didn't look up, just stared at the table. "You Donnie?" she asked, voice like paper tearing. "Yeah, pizza delivery." She didn't respond, just gestured to the table, set it down. He walked forward. The candlelight made the shadows move like water on the walls. The woman didn't blink, didn't shift. "You come from town?" "Yes, ma'am. Denton. Did it follow you?" Donnie stopped. "Did what follow me?" She turned then. Her eyes were wrong. Not cloudy with age, clear. Too clear. Like polished glass with nothing behind them. "I told him not to come. Any more. Not after what happened last time." But they kept delivering. And now it's awake again. Donnie tried to back away. "I think I have the wrong house. You have the right one." She stood slowly. "Look behind you." He turned. There was no door. Just the lake. Not behind the house. Inside it. Through the walls. Like the boards had dissolved into black water. It stretched out in every direction, rippling, waiting. And something was rising. At first, it looked like driftwood, long, black, wet, but it had joints. And too many elbows. It moved like it didn't understand its own shape. Limbs crawling across the surface without breaking it. No eyes, no face, just folds and breathing. Wet, bubbling breaths that echoed inside his skull. The old woman was crying now, not loudly. Not pleading. Just crying like someone who knew this was the last time. It feeds on people who shine light into the dark. That's how it sees. Donnie's headlights were still on. Out there, glowing faintly across the water. The thing turned toward them. Not turned, oriented. He backed up, tried to reach for the door. But his hand went through it. Nothing there. Just the lake. Just cold. Air. And then the headlights flickered and went out. He was alone. The candle sputtered. The water crept forward. The old woman whispered, "You brought it again." And something touched his foot. Garrett never thought he'd end up back in Hondo. He'd left the town 6 years earlier, driven by the kind of quiet desperation that makes people disappear into oil field jobs, seasonal construction, or long-haul trucking. But rent in San Antonio kept rising, and when his girlfriend left and took the dog, he came back with nothing but a busted phone and an old Ford Focus he bought off Facebook for $900. That's how he ended up working nights at Rocco's Pizza again, the same dead end job he had in high school, same greasy fryer, same twitchy manager. Only difference was that now, Garrett couldn't laugh it off. He was 30, broke, and haunted by choices that all felt like echoes of each other. Pizza delivery wasn't a step down anymore. It was the ground floor. Maybe the basement. He didn't even flinch when the order came through at 11:37 p.m. The shop was winding down. The oven's already in cool-down mode. 1 large Supreme. 2 Cokes. Paid online with a generous $18 tip. But it was the address that made him stop chewing his pen. There wasn't one dot, it just said, Old County Route 5 beyond mile marker 16. Look for the rusted windmill and the green mailbox. Flash your lights 3 times. There was a time Garrett would have laughed. Thought it was a prank. Maybe from the high schoolers that still lingered around the strip mall behind the Dollar Tree. But something about the message made the back of his neck go tight. He showed it to Marcos. The shift manager. Marcos squinted. That's out past. The ranch land. No houses out there. Should I skip it? Marcos shrugged, too tired to care. It's paid. Drop it and come back. You scared of the dark now? Garrett didn't answer. Just nodded and loaded the bag into the Focus. The roads out there got lonely fast. Even with a full tank and bright headlights, there was something about those flat, empty stretches west of town that felt older than the pavement. The sign stopped. Making sense. The fences leaned like they were eavesdropping. There weren't even animals out. No deer, no coyotes, not even buzzards on the power poles. Just you, your thoughts, and the dark. Garrett passed mile marker 14. Then 15. By the time he reached 16, the road narrowed. The asphalt cracked. The yellow lines faded. He slowed as he spotted the windmill. It stood like a snapped cross in the moonlight, rusted red, groaning in the night breeze. The green mailbox was half buried in grass, its side crushed inward, like something had grabbed it with inhuman strength. There was no driveway, no house, no porch lights, just scrubland stretching into the horizon, but Garrett was too tired to be scared. He thought of the $18, thought of gas and smokes and maybe a Whataburger. On the way back. So he killed the engine and flashed his lights. Once. Twice. 3 times. The wind stopped. Completely. Not slowed. Stop. The windmill stood still, too still. Like it had frozen mid-creek. The silence hit next. Not the usual rural quiet. This was a vacuum. Like the earth had taken a breath and refused to exhale. Then he saw her. A woman, or what looked like one. She stepped out of the tree line, barefoot, dressed in something dark and soaked. Her long hair clung to her face. Her skin was wet, her limbs loose, like someone half drowned being puppeted by invisible strings. She walked straight to the passenger window and looked in. Her eyes weren't scared. They were grateful. You brought it, she said. Garrett rolled the window down an inch. You ordered pizza? She shook her head slowly. Not for me, for him. Garrett blinked. Who's him? She pointed past the windmill. There was nothing there. Then something blinked. Not a light. And high above the bushes, just beyond the windmill. Something massive, something crouched and still and wide, so big his brain refused to map its shape properly. It began to rise, slowly, unfolding like a spider from the cracks of the earth. Garrett saw limbs, joints bending the wrong way, skin like oil and water, black, shifting, shimmering. The woman disappeared. No sound. She was just gone, and the thing behind the windmill began to move, not toward him. Just nearer, not fast, not aggressive. Just closing distance in a way that didn't make sense. Garrett turned the key. Nothing. The Focus refused to start. He punched the steering wheel, turned the key again, still nothing. The shape was closer now, almost playful in its approach, like it wanted him to feel every second of its coming. He opened the door, ran. No plan, no light, just bolted into the field, pizza bag swinging off his shoulder, panting like a wounded dog. The earth seemed to stretch. Every bush looked the same. Every direction turned back toward the windmill. He tried his phone. Dead. Then he saw it. A shack. Old. Sagging. He stumbled inside. Collapsed. It was cold inside. And empty. Except there was a pizza box on the floor. One of theirs. Same sticker. Same. Bag. Open. Inside. Bones. Small ones. Fingers. And a receipt stuck to the inside of the lid. Driver. G. Mitchell. Date. October 2019. Tip. $20 status. Claim. Garrett's hands started shaking. That was his name. That was today's date. He dropped the box and turned to run, but the doorway had changed. Now it opened into the field again, and standing there was himself. Same HOODIE. Same bag. Same face, but smiling, too wide. And behind him, the windmill spun. Without wind. He had delivered to the address before. That's what made it worse. That's what made everything fall apart in slow-motion horror, because it was a house Travis knew or thought he did. He dropped pizza there twice in the last month. Big guy, about 40, name was Marcus or Morris or something. Always paid in cash. Always tipped $5. Nothing unusual. Just another dark brown house on a street full of identical ones in one of those fading San Antonio suburbs where the lawns were too dry and the streetlights never got fixed. But this time was different from the beginning. The order came through just before close. 1 large cheese, breadsticks, no soda, prepaid. Cash tip, $15. Big for a no-frills order. Address, 1436 St. Mary's Circle. Travis didn't blink at first. He just saw the address and thought, oh yeah, that guy again. It was familiar. Comfortable. Even, which was rare for these late-night runs. So he grabbed the order, tossed it into the hot bag, and headed out. The drive wasn't long. About 10 minutes down I-10, right past the edge of the city where things start to go quiet. He delivered all around that area before, so the route was muscle memory. Right on Acacia, left on St. Mary's. House on the corner with the flag. Pole and no flag. But when he turned down the street, he noticed something immediately. It was darker than it should have been. Not just 1 or 2 streetlights out, all of them. The entire block was dim, like someone had put a smoky film over the neighborhood. And silent, not quiet, silent, no sprinklers. No TVs behind windows. Not even the chirping of bugs. He pulled up to 1436 and frowned. It wasn't the same house. Or it was, technically, same shape, same fence, same stone mailbox with the crack in the middle, but it was older now, like it had aged 50 years since he last saw it. The paint was peeling. The front windows were boarded from the inside. The porch swing was gone, replaced by rusted chains that hung like vines from the beam above. No lights inside. No signs of life. And yet, the front door was open just a crack. Travis sat in the car a long moment, engine idling. He thought about calling the store, just to check. But his phone had 0 bars. Then the porch light flickered on. Dim, yellow, faint as a dying candle. Just enough to show that the front door was open a little more than before. He stepped out of the car, grabbed the pizza bag, and walked to the porch with careful steps. The air smelled like rain and rust. Even though it hadn't rained in weeks. He reached the front door. Knocked once. It swung open on its own. He called out, "Pizza delivery." No answer, just the soft creak of the door settling into the wall. He stepped inside. Everything was wrong. The house was hollow. Not empty. Hollow. Like someone had scooped out everything that made it a home and left the shell behind. Furniture was covered in yellowing sheets. The walls were stained with streaks that looked like water damage, but didn't smell like water. Something metallic. Something old. He stepped into the hallway, recognized a crooked painting on the wall. A family portrait, but the faces had been scratched off, all except for the man in the center. Travis Squinted. It was Marcus, but younger and smiling too wide. He passed the living room. The couch was split open, stuffing leaking out. The floor beneath him creaked like it was reacting to his presence. Not his weight. Then a voice from the back of the house. I thought you weren't coming back. Travis froze. It was Marcus. Same voice, same deep tone, but it sounded damaged, like it had been echoing inside empty lungs for too long. He stepped forward slowly. Hey man, Travis called, forcing his voice steady. I've got your pizza. A figure moved past the hallway entrance, just a flicker. A glimpse of motion. Travis turned the corner. The kitchen was dark. The fridge was humming loudly, louder than it should. On the table was a photograph. Just one, laid perfectly flat. He leaned down to look. It was him, standing at the front, door. Pizza in hand. But the door wasn't open. It was closed, and something stood behind him in the glass, watching. He turned, stumbling back toward the living room, and stopped. Marcus was standing there now, right in the center of the hallway. But he looked wrong, like he was unfinished. His skin was gray and smooth in some places, while other parts were burned or peeled. His eyes had no whites, just flat, wet color. And his mouth opened too wide. I never left, he said. Travis took a step back. The hallway behind him was gone. No walls. Just black, like the house had folded around him. He turned to run. And suddenly the living room had changed. It was clean now. Normal, bright, afternoon sun pouring through, open curtains, and someone else was on the couch. It was Travis, or someone wearing his clothes. Same hoodie, same hat, same delivery bag in hand, and he was smiling, like he belonged there, like Travis was the intruder now. Then the house blinked. Again. It was rotting, cold. And the figure on the couch was gone. He ran. Didn't know how, didn't see where, but suddenly he was outside. Again. His car was running. The pizza bag was gone. So were his keys. He sat in the car until sunrise. When he finally drove off, he didn't look back. But a week later, the same address came through the app. Same name. Same order. He declined it, but the app glitched, accepted it anyway. Now it comes through every Thursday night. Same tip, same request, same address. He doesn't deliver anymore, but he still sees 1436 on the app. Sometimes. He tries not to look, because each time he does, the photo of him at the door changes. And the thing behind the glass gets closer. He didn't think the town still existed. Hell, he didn't think it had ever truly existed. Outside of the old paper maps his grandfather used to keep folded under the seat of his El Camino. Wilburn, Texas, a name whispered like a hiccup wind. Folks talked about lost counties and failed farming towns, but the name was on the receipt, clear as day, when the printer spat it out at 12:08 a.m. one large thin crust. Galapagos and sausage. Paid in full. Cash tip, $25. The address, 109 Harvest Road, Wilburn, TX. Landon stared at it for a solid 30 seconds, the whine of the prep cooler filling the silence behind him. He looked up at Jerry, the night manager. This isn't real, he said. Wilburn? That town burned out like 50 years ago. Jerry shrugged, not looking up from his phone. Paid order. You want the tip or not? Landon hesitated. The system should have kicked it back. No GPS return. No road data. Nothing but a blinking red dot outside BASTROP. Still. $25 tip. He should have said no, but he wrapped the pie, loaded the bag, and stepped into the sticky, humid air. The rain hadn't hit yet, But it was coming. The sky felt thick, like it was holding its breath. Lightning lit the horizon in wide, silent flashes. He drove past the last gas station around 12:41. From there, the signs grew older. Paint flaking, rust climbing the poles like vines. Then there were no signs at all. No gas stations, no houses. Just a long, dark stretch of cracked highway that wound through pine trees taller than most two-story homes. The GPS froze. The signal died. Landon slowed when he saw the turn. A gravel road with a crooked wooden post beside it. No name. No numbers. But he took it. The air changed immediately. He didn't notice it at first. But after the second bend in the road, he realized there was no sound. Not just no animals, no engine noise. His tires spun over gravel. His foot tapped the gas, but the engine was gone, dead silent. He rolled down the window. Silence. Not even wind. His breath fogged the glass in the cabin. It wasn't cold, but the kind of chill that settles under your skin. Then the sign appeared. Wilburn Est, 1882, wooden, cracked. Behind it, ruins. Buildings collapsed into their foundations. A church steeple split in half. Storefronts without windows, all gray, all ash-colored. But in the middle of it all, a house perfectly intact. One story, white porch, fresh paint, lantern glowing on the step like it had just been lit. Landon parked. He sat in the car for a minute, gripping the steering wheel with sweaty palms. Then the lantern flickered, and the front door opened. He got out. The gravel crunched underfoot. The sound startled him. It was the only sound he'd heard since he turned off the highway. The pizza bag felt too warm now. He climbed the porch and stood at the threshold. A woman stood just inside the doorway, wearing a red dress, hair pinned back, pale-faced. Smiling. Not friendly. Smiling like someone who had waited far too long to be seen. "You're early," she said. "I had trouble finding the place." "No, you didn't." He blinked. "I brought your pizza," he said, holding out the bag. She looked down at it, then back up at him. "We didn't order pizza," she said softly. "You delivered last week." "I think you're mistaken." Her head tilted. "You don't remember?" She stepped aside. Landon hesitated, then crossed the threshold. The house was warm. Wood floors. Old furniture. A record player spinning. Nothing but the air. The air felt familiar. Too familiar. He stepped into the hall. A photograph hung on the wall. Him. Standing at the door. Same uniform. Same face, but it wasn't from tonight. It was aged, like it had been there for years. He stepped closer. The eyes in the photo were blacked out. He turned. The woman was gone. The hallway behind him stretched, longer now. The light dimmer. He walked. Another photo. Another version of himself. This time, standing inside the house. Behind him. A shape. Tall, thin, no face, just presence. He turned a corner, and the hallway looped back. To the front door. Only now, the porch was gone, replaced by darkness. Like the town outside had been eaten. He reached for the knob. It turned. Opened. Into another hallway, and there was the woman again, but her eyes were hollow now, not sockets, just holes. "You left once," she said, "but you always come back." "I've never been here," Landon whispered. She smiled wider. "Say it again." "I've never been here." She stepped closer. "You have." He backed away, but the walls bent. The house folded inward like it was breathing him in. The pizza bag fell open. Inside was a receipt. His name, tonight's date, under status. It read, "Delivered. Consumed." Landon ran. No exit. Just endless rooms. Endlessly familiar. Until he passed a mirror and stopped, because the man in the mirror wasn't holding Pizza. He was holding a lantern, and he was smiling, waiting. The last order of the night came in just as Eli was about to clock out. He had one arm out of his apron when the receipt printer screeched like a dying animal and spat out a thin, curling slip of paper with just a few words. One large pepperoni. Cash tip, $30. Address, Lot 53, Dusty Pines Trailer Court, East Lubbock. Note, delivered directly to the unit. She doesn't like the horn. Eli stared at it, something cold sliding down his ribs. He'd lived in Lubbock his whole life. He knew Dusty Pines. Everyone did. It was the kind of place people talked about in gas stations and hospital waiting rooms. Half abandoned, mostly forgotten. Used to be a real neighborhood in the 70s, but now it was more like a dumping ground for the barely living and already dead. Could have said no. Could have handed it off to Darren or Greg or pretended he had a stomach ache. But the $30 tip hit his pride in just the right spot. And when he looked over at the register girl counting coins with her chipped black nails and half smile, he didn't want to look like a coward. So he said, "I'll take it." The sun had long since gone down. Lubbock's city lights gave way to the dark rural edges of the county in less than 10 minutes. As he got farther east, the roads cracked wider and the fields grew taller. Wheat and corn, mostly. The kind of fields that swayed at night even when there wasn't wind. Eli rolled down the window. No crickets. No frogs, just the hum of his own. Tires and the static of the AM station flickering in and out. He passed the old billboard that once advertised Dusty Pines as the future of affordable living. The sign was falling apart, and the face of the smiling family had long since been eaten by sun and rot. He turned left onto the main drive. The trailer park was spread out, across a dead grid of dirt lanes and skeletal mesquite trees. Trailers. Leaned, sagging like they were too tired to stand. Some had windows lit by televisions. Some didn't have windows at all, just duct-tape plastic, where people pretended to still live. Lot numbers were barely visible. He found 53 after 2 loops and a moment of confusion when he realized the street curved behind an old wrecked sedan. As if the layout of the park had changed on its own. The trailer was silver, dull and rust-lined, with one tiny porch light flickering above a broken screen door. A stained curtain moved behind the window. Eli parked. Turned off the engine. He didn't honk. The note said not to. He got out and grabbed the pizza. The dirt under his shoes felt too soft, not muddy, not dry. Just spongy, like walking on fabric soaked in something old. He climbed the steps and knocked once. The door opened instantly. A girl stood there. Maybe 12, maybe 14. Dirty blonde hair, gray dress, bare feet. She didn't speak. Just stared. Her eyes were big and round and too still. Eli cleared his throat. "Got your pizza," he said. She nodded, slow and robotic. Then said, "She's waiting." She turned and walked back into the trailer, leaving the door wide open. Eli hesitated. He could have set the box down and walked away, but he stepped inside. The trailer smelled like mold, bleach, and rotting meat, layered on top of each other. Like bad perfume. The walls were covered in floral wallpaper, but it had peeled in long strips, revealing yellow wood beneath. The girl walked into a back room and shut the door behind her. He stood in the tiny kitchen. The lights overhead buzzed and flickered like they were trying to say something. On the table, a half-eaten pizza, same kind he brought. A can of root beer still sweating. Beside it, a receipt. His name was on it. Same as tonight. Same date. Except it was dated 3 days ago. He turned around fast. The trailer had changed. The door was gone. No window. No curtain. Just wood panels. He looked at the pizza in his hand. Steam still rising. Then he looked at the one on the table. Same box, same brand, same timestamp. He opened the one in his hand. It was empty. Just an old napkin inside, folded into a shape he didn't recognize. He heard a noise from the hallway. Voice. Low, guttural, speaking words that didn't belong to any language he knew. He backed into the kitchen, heart pounding, and tripped over something soft. He looked down. A delivery bag, just like his. With a name tag pinned to the side. Not his name, but someone else who had worked at the shop. He remembered him. Tommy. Quit a few months ago. Never picked up his last paycheck. The hallway light snapped off. Then the buzzing stopped. The trailer went silent. Then came the footsteps. Slow, wet, not boots, not bare feet, something else. He stood up, tried to find the door, but there was no door anymore. Just a mirror hung crooked on the wall. It showed the hallway behind him, but there was no figure in the hallway, only in the mirror. Tall, bent. Its skin was peeling, but it had no mouth. Just a wide stretch of torn cheek on both sides, like it had grinned so hard it broke its own face. The girl appeared beside him again. This time her dress was stained red. She pointed at the mirror. He doesn't want the pizza, she said softly. He wants the one who brings it. The figure stepped closer in the mirror. Eli turned to run. But now the hallway was gone. The floor was gone, and he was falling into something that looked like the trailer park from above. All the trailers opened at once, and from each one, someone stepped out wearing his face. The order came through just after midnight. Henry had already started wiping down the counters, the floor mop leaning against the back exit, damp and sour. It was the last stretch of a slow shift at Papa Giulio's on Seguin Avenue, and he was dead tired. The printer clicked and spat out the order slip with a single beep chirp. 1 large veggie. No cheese. Cash tip, $40. Address, 1091 County Road 220, outskirts of New Braunfels. Note, don't knock, just wait, shit come out. Henry blinked at the address. It wasn't familiar, but it wasn't exactly unfamiliar either. He'd been doing deliveries for over a year now. A lot of old dirt roads and trailer parks looked the same at night, but there was something about this road, something that made his skin crawl before he even left the shop. The app showed the red pin floating in the middle of a green zone. No streets nearby, no crossroad, no neighborhood. Name, just open county space and a dead-end note. Private property, no trespassing. He almost said no. But then he saw the tip again. $40 cash. He loaded the pizza into the bag, grabbed the receipt, and muttered, "One last drop." It was drizzling when he left the city limits. The kind of drizzle that slicked everything in a thin skin of cold and made the road seem farther than it was. The closer he got to County Road 220, the fewer streetlights he passed. Eventually, there were none, just his headlights cutting a tunnel through the trees. The GPS started to flicker. Then it froze. He checked his signal. 1 bar, then none. The road narrowed after a cattle guard, paved to gravel, then gravel to dirt. Trees leaned in closer on both sides. Not like they were growing there, like they'd shifted to watch him arrive. Then he saw the house, a plain, one-story white structure at the very end of the dirt trail. No driveway, no mailbox, no porch light. But the windows were open and something glowed inside, dim, warm. Like candlelight. He parked at the edge of the clearing and killed the engine. The silence was thick, heavy. He stepped out with the pizza and stood beside the car. The instructions were clear. Don't knock. Just wait. So he waited. And that's when the wind picked up. Only it wasn't a breeze. It came from the ground, low and circular, like something large was turning beneath the earth, breathing through the soil. Then the front door opened. A girl walked out barefoot. No older than 20. Pale skin, black hair. A white nightgown soaked from the drizzle, clinging to her legs like thin paper. She didn't speak. Just walked straight toward him. Henry didn't move. Her eyes were wrong. Not glowing. Not black. Just empty. No life in them. No reaction. She stopped 2 feet in front of him, held out her hands. He offered the pizza bag. She didn't take it. She looked past him toward the trees behind the car. Then she whispered, "You're early." He blinked. "I'm not. I just got the order." She frowned, not angry, just confused. "No, you brought the last one." "What?" She pointed behind him, to the other house. He turned. There was another house there now. Same size. Same color. Same windows. It hadn't been there 30 seconds ago. He stared, breath catching. The lights were on inside it too. A porch swing moved. A door stood open. "That wasn't there before," he said. The girl didn't respond. When he looked back, she was gone. No footsteps. No door closing. Just gone. He turned back to the second house. The light inside flickered. His feet moved forward, but he didn't tell them to. He crossed the clearing. One slow step after another. When he reached the porch, he set the pizza bag down, just to get rid of it, just to make this not his problem anymore. But the door creaked wider, inviting him in. The smell hit him before he stepped through. Not rot, not smoke. It smelled like his house. The one he'd grown up in outside San Marcos. The exact same carpet, the same faded wallpaper, even the scuff mark near the door frame where his brother cracked a toy bat 20 years ago. He whispered, "What the hell?" Then he saw the mirror on the wall, and in it, not his reflection, but someone wearing his shirt. Not moving the same. The figure raised a hand. So did he. But the smile didn't match. It stretched too far. The teeth were off, and behind the reflection, a third house appeared, then a fourth, and a fifth. All the same, all stacked like paper. Layers on top of the world. Then the lights went out. The mirror turned black. And Henry was outside again. Only now there was no car. No road. Just trees. And house after house after house, all identical, all glowing. All waiting. The pizza bag was in his hand. Again. Steam rising. Receipt blank. No name. No number. Just one word scrawled in red ink. Repeat. Carlos hated border towns at night. The way the wind moved without warning. The way headlights sometimes caught movement that wasn't there. The way every sound echoed twice, once in your ears and once in your bones. He had transferred to the El Paso branch of Rio Pi only 2 weeks ago. His cousin got him the job. "Good tips," he'd said. "Fast runs. Real quiet after dark." Carlos didn't mind the quiet. It was the kind that clung to your back that he didn't like. It was 11:49 p.m. when the final order of the night slid out of the printer with a cough. 1 medium carne asada pizza, cash, address, Lot 26, El Cairo Trailer Court, a place Carlos had never heard of. He asked Paul, the night manager who looked up from a sports podcast with tired eyes, "El Cairo? That even still around?" Paul frowned. "That part got bulldozed last year, bro. Flood damage or something, it's gone." Carlos showed him the slip. "Then how'd this get through?" Paul shrugged. "Paid in full? Just go and come back fast. Take the flashlight." Carlos took the bag, stepped into the night, and found the air colder than it should have been. The city lights behind him glowed orange like dying embers as he pushed east toward the far end of El Paso County. The road signs got fewer. Then disappeared. The GPS pulsed, confused. Before going dead altogether. He followed instinct, dirt memory, and a strange sense of familiarity he couldn't place. He passed a coyote on the side of the road. It didn't move. Just watched. 20 minutes later, he saw it. A rusted metal sign with bullet holes through the words, El Cairo, established 1952. Behind it, a winding dirt path. No lights. No pavement. Just dust and brush. He turned onto it. Gravel cracked under his tires. Then the air changed. The world got too quiet too fast. Not a natural quiet, not rural or peaceful. It was vacuumed. Every sound that should exist had been pulled into the dark. Carlos stopped the car when he saw the trailers. There were only 3 of them now, but all of them were collapsed, skeletons of what used to be homes. Lot 26 was the far one, mostly destroyed. No roof. No windows. Just a bent frame and a leaning door that somehow still stood upright, like it had forgotten how to fall. Carlos hesitated. Then, like a puppet, he stepped out with the pizza bag. The earth was soft beneath his boots, not like sand, more like dust that had once been skin. He stepped over a twisted fence, approached the door, and knocked. No answer. He turned to go and heard it. The door opened. He turned back, and someone stood there. A man. Tall, thin, skin stretched tight, but not from age. From hunger. His eyes were wide. Black, not with darkness, but with depth. You brought it, he said. Carlos stared. The man looked like he'd been buried for a year. You ordered? Carlos asked. The man nodded. And stepped aside. Inside, the trailer was whole, not ruined, not collapsed. Lit with a soft green glow. Carlos stepped in. He smelled meat, but not pizza. Roasted meat, sharp, metallic. The kind of smell you only remember from old butcher shops or dark things your stomach isn't built to digest. He looked around. Every wall had crosses, but they weren't upright. They hung upside down. Painted, burned, etched. Hundreds. You're the first to come in years, the man said. They stopped coming after she was fed. Carlos backed toward the door. Who's she? From behind a tattered curtain, something whispered. Me. Carlos turned. Too fast and fell. The curtain swayed. Behind it was a room with no walls. Just space. Just distance. As if the desert itself had crawled into the trailer and made a home there. And rising from that dark sand was her. A shape. Not quite human, but close enough to be worse. A face like melted glass. No mouth, but sound came anyway. Smell like all the others. Carlos scrambled to his feet. The man didn't stop him, didn't move. He only smiled wider and whispered, Now you'll stay too. Carlos burst out the door, ran back to his car. The road was gone. No tracks, no path, just open desert. He drove anyway, spinning tires, kicking dirt. Blind. Until lights finally appeared. Back in town, back under neon. He parked outside the shop, hands shaking. Paul looked up. You good? Carlos dropped the bag on the counter. Paul frowned. What's this? Carlos looked. Inside was the same pizza, untouched. Still warm, but the crust had teeth marks in it, and the receipt now read, El Cairo, Lot 26. Status. Consumed. Paul asked. Again, if he was okay. Carlos didn't answer. He just stared through the store's front window into the parking lot. Where the man from the trailer was standing. Smiling. Waving. Holding a fresh receipt in one hand. The ticket said the order was placed at 10:58 p.m., but Eli didn't see it until 11:42. He was busy doing dishes, his earbuds playing some true crime podcast that made it easy to tune out the world, and his closing shift at Tex Pie in Kingsville was usually uneventful anyway. But when he wiped his hands and finally checked the terminal, he saw the glowing red alert that signaled a delayed delivery order. It shouldn't have been there. The system auto-rejects anything after 11:30. But there. It was. One large jalapeno and ground beef pizza, paid in full. Tip $22. No customer name. Just a note. No substitutions. Do not arrive early. Delivered to Lone Spur Station. Highway 77, mile 213. Flash headlights 4 times upon arrival. Do not honk. Eli frowned. He didn't recognize the address. He Googled. Nothing came up. Not even an old gas station listing. Not a closed one. Not a marked property. Just empty land on the edge of a dead stretch of highway no one really used anymore. He showed the order to Clara, the shift lead. She read the slip, then shrugged. Old folks used to say there were places on 77 that never got paved right. Areas where the road remembered how things used to be. What the hell does that mean? Eli asked. Clara just handed him the box pizza. It means you've got $22. Riding on one pie and a story you'll probably tell at a bar in 10 years. If you come back. He laughed like it was a joke. But when he walked out to his car, the humidity felt different, thicker, like sweat with no heat. He drove in silence. No music. No podcasts. His phone was dying anyway, and he didn't want to plug it in. Something in him, something old, maybe instinct or maybe memory, said he'd want to hear everything around him once he got out there. Highway 77 looked like a smear of darkness between Kingsville and nowhere. His headlights cut a narrow tunnel through the pitch, the painted lines barely visible. The mile markers counted up. At 213, he slowed. There was nothing. Just brush and barbed wire. Then, in the distance, a soft flicker. A rusted sign. Barely readable. In the beam, Lone Spur, the gas station appeared like it had been waiting. Old. Abandoned. The canopy over the pump sagged. The station windows were dark, dusty. No lights inside. No cars. No road shoulder. Just a cracked lot, but the pumps were clean. Not new, just clean. Like someone had scrubbed them recently. Too recently. He pulled in slowly. No movement. No sound. He remembered the note. Flashed his headlights. Once, twice, 3 times. 4. At first, nothing. Then the sign over the station buzzed once. Just once, like a dead bulb trying to breathe. He got out. Pizza in hand. The night smelled like copper and wet concrete. The air was heavy. No wind. No bugs. He stepped up to the glass door. It opened before he touched it. Inside, the store was lit by pale yellow lights. Stocked shelves. Candy. Drinks. Magazines with dates from the 1990s. Everything was clean. Organized. Silent. Hello? He called. No answer. He stepped inside. His footsteps didn't echo. Didn't even crunch. The floor absorbed them. At the back counter, a woman stood. She was old, pale, wearing a red uniform with a name tag that just said, Manager. Her eyes were clouded, not blind, just empty. You're late, she said. I came as soon as it came through, he replied, holding out the pizza, her head tilted slightly. Room 4. Eli blinked. What? She didn't answer. Just turned and walked through a doorway marked employees. Only. He looked down. On the floor was a key, attached to a red plastic tag. Room 4. He hadn't seen it fall. He hadn't heard it land. He took the key, walked out back. The rear of the gas station was a motel, 6 rooms. All dark. All with faded red doors. Except room 4. Its porch light was on, buzzing faintly. He walked up the steps, heart pounding so loud it hurt, unlocked the door. Inside was a single bed, a table, a man sitting in a chair, facing away. The room smelled like burned hair and dust. Eli stepped inside. I have your order. The man didn't move. Eli stepped closer. Then the man spoke. "You delivered this already." Eli froze. "No, I just got the 'you bring it every year,'" the man said. "Same time, same pizza, same face." "I've never." The man turned. He had Eli's face, same shirt, same eyes. Same scar on his chin from a bike accident at 11, but aged. Tired, his voice cracked. "You leave through the front. You forget. But your body never does." Eli dropped the pizza. The lights flickered outside. The world seemed to tilt. He ran back through the station. The woman behind the counter watched him without blinking. As he passed, she whispered, "See you next year." He didn't stop. He drove fast. Didn't look back. Didn't sleep that night. The next day, he told Clara he couldn't remember the last run. She nodded like she'd heard it before, and when he checked his car, the pizza bag was still in the back seat. Still full, still warm, and the receipt had changed. Time, 10:58 p.m. Customer, E. Moreno status, accepted. Notes: do not deliver early again. The order shouldn't have gone through. That's what Tyler kept telling himself as he stared at the address blinking on the terminal screen at Pecos Slice, a tired pizza joint on the edge of Midland, Texas. The time was 12:14 a.m. The shop was already in its after-hours cleanup phase. Oven off, phone silenced. Half the lights already dimmed, but somehow the system had accepted an order from a dead zone. A place that didn't have service. One large meat lovers. No sides. No drinks. Cash. Tip $30. And the address? Unit 5, Horizon Ridge Site C, North Basin. No roads. Oil access trail only. He showed it to the night manager, but Rick just shrugged. Probably a guy in a trailer. Roughnecks get dumped out there for weeks sometimes. GPS can't track them. They use old towers. Happens. Tyler wasn't sure. The name Horizon Ridge sounded familiar, but not in a good way. He thought of headlines, rumors, things whispered in break rooms. Wasn't that the site where a drill collapsed into itself last year? Where 2 men vanished and the third came back. Speaking Spanish, even though he'd been born in Indiana? But $30 was $30. He told himself it was just a run like any other. Deliver. Smile. Leave. By 12:35. He was driving out past the Midland Glow. Once you crossed Highway 349, the world became darker, flatter, emptier. Pump jacks rocked like skeletal beasts in the distance. The land breathed oil, sweat, and ghosts. He passed one trailer site, then another. None labeled. His GPS had frozen at the turnoff. The oil trail curved, dipped, and eventually split into 2 paths. He picked one at random. It led him past 3 massive rigs, humming with low, electrical groans. And then he saw it. A light. One single red bulb hanging above a steel door. A portable cabin. No signs. No fences. Just open land and that waiting red. Eye in the dark. He parked beside a pile of metal drums. The earth beneath his boots felt unstable. Not wet. Not soft, just shifting. Like it might open if he stepped wrong. He carried the pizza bag up the short stairwell and knocked on the door. No answer. He knocked again. Pizza delivery. Still nothing. Then the door opened, not swung, just unlatched. Popped inward like someone had released a lock without moving their hand. He stepped in. The cabin was silent, lit by a single buzzing overhead light. The walls were bare aluminum, 1 folding chair, 1 desk. No photos. No clothes. No signs of a person living here, except the air. The air smelled like someone lived here. Not recently, but deeply. Like something had seeped into the metal. He placed the pizza on the desk. Then he saw the corner. Behind. A hanging curtain, a cot, a bucket, a mirror, and scrawled across the mirror in something black and thick. Don't look down. Tyler's chest tightened. He stepped back. That's when he heard the whisper, not a voice. Pressure. It came from the floor. Like a sound through bones. Then a crack. Small, soft. The ground shifted. Beneath him. He looked down. The floor opened. Only an inch. But enough to see something watching. An eye. No, not an eye. A reflection. His own. Looking. Up. But not copying his movements. It smiled. He did not. He fell backward. The cabin rattled. The door slammed. Shut. The light went out. The air changed. Grew hot, wet, and something rose through the crack. A voice that was too many voices, all speaking at once. Not English. Not human. He backed into the wall. The pizza box slid off the desk. Landed on the floor. From inside it. A noise. A voice. His voice. Recorded. Whispering. Don't look down. He screamed. The floor opened wider. Hands reached up. Too long. Too many fingers. They didn't pull him. They just waited. He ran to the door. It wouldn't open. He kicked it. Punched it. Then, finally, it popped outward, slamming him into the night air. He didn't look back. Drove with his lights off. Didn't care. Didn't speak until he hit town. When he told Rick what happened, Rick just blinked. Horizon Ridge? He pulled out a folder, showed Tyler a page. Same address. Same name, but the slip was dated 2 years ago and signed by a driver who never came back. Tyler quit the next day, but sometimes he checks the Pecos Slice app. Just to see. And every few weeks. One address appears. Horizon Ridge site. See. Same order. Same tip. Same note. And when you click decline, it accepts itself. The order was strange before he even saw the address. It came in without a phone number. No name. No time stamp. Just one request. Deliver 1 large cheese to 4 Sycamore Street, Vale, TX. Then he sat behind the register at Wild West Pizza, chewing the inside of his cheek and wondering if Vale was some kind of prank. He'd lived in Amarillo his whole life. Heard of Vega, heard of Wiki, heard of Vernon, but Vale? He asked Travis, who was finishing dishes in the back. Vale? Travis muttered. Dude, you just made that up. No, I swear, Benny said, holding out the receipt. Travis dried his hands and leaned over, then blinked. That's not a real place. Wanna bet? I mean, it's not on Google Maps. Benny tapped the screen. The GPS marked a spot west of Amarillo, down some forgotten county road. No reviews. No businesses. Just a gray smudge of land near an old cemetery and the remains of a train depot. I'll take it. Benny said it was already past 11, but he didn't care. The tip said $50, and if it was a prank, well, he could use the drive to clear his head. The night was cool, the roads empty, and he always liked driving alone when the rest of the world fell asleep. He took the pizza, plugged in the coordinates, and headed out. As he crossed the city limits, the streetlights gave way to moonlight, then nothing. No stars. No sound. Even the crickets stopped. He passed abandoned barns, rusted mailboxes, roads that turned to gravel, then dust. Finally, the GPS chirped and died. He was alone on a cracked 2-lane strip. Nothing around him but flat blackness and a faint glow ahead, like candlelight. A sign appeared. Welcome to Vale, painted by hand. Bent. Old. Splintered in the middle. He slowed. There were houses. Not many. Maybe 5 or 6. They sat like forgotten thoughts on the edge of the road. Small. Square. Slanted. One of them had a porch light on. He looked at the receipt again, 4 Sycamore. There were no street signs, but the house with the porch light had a number painted beside the door, the number 4. He parked, got out, held the pizza box. Like a shield. The air smelled like cedar and dust. Something about the trees didn't feel right, like they'd grown in the shape of people, twisting upward in silent poses of fear or surrender. He climbed the steps, knocked once, no. Answer. Knocked again. Then a voice, high, raspy, like wind through dry grass. Come in. It's unlocked. The door creaked inward on its own. Benny hesitated. Every part of his body told him to leave, but his legs moved anyway. The inside of the house was... It was his grandma's house. The same wallpaper, same clock, same plastic-covered sofa. Same smell, cinnamon and antiseptic. He blinked hard. The house didn't look dusty or broken. It looked preserved, lived in, but the corners were too dark. Lights too dim. The shadows too thick. And something was humming, low. A familiar tune he couldn't place. He stepped into the living room. A woman sat in a rocking chair, back to him. She didn't turn, didn't speak, but the chair rocked smooth. Slow. He cleared his throat. Pizza? She didn't move. Then she stopped rocking. I didn't order it for me. Benny frowned. Who then? She pointed down the hallway. It's for the one in the walls. What? She stood. Her neck cracked sideways once, then again. I told him I was too old to feed it, but it gets so hungry. The walls groaned, not like old wood, like something breathing. Inside them, the hallway lights flickered, then dimmed. Then went out. Benny turned to run, but the door was gone, not closed. Gone. In its place, another hallway, lined with mirrors. Each mirror showed a different version of him. Younger, older, dead, missing parts. And in one, he saw the delivery, himself, years ago, handing over a pizza. Same house. Same woman, same look in his eyes. He was already here. Once he forgot. They all forget. He dropped the pizza. The box hit the floor with a wet sound. Too wet. He looked down. Cheese. And sauce. But also something else. A finger. Still twitching. He turned, screamed, ran down the hall. Each step led him deeper into the same room. It kept repeating. Same sofa. Same wallpaper. Same rocking chair. But each version. Worse. Older. Rotting. The woman now headless. Now only bones. Now a black shape in her place. Finally, he dropped to his knees, covered his face, and the voice said, You'll forget this too, but you'll be back. When? Benny woke up. He was parked outside the pizza shop. The pizza box was gone. His phone showed 11:12 p.m. An hour earlier than when he left. The receipt was blank. No address. No time. No name. Just 2 words. See you. There was a haze over the lake that night. Not fog, not smoke, just a thin silver veil that hovered above the surface like breath that never finished exhaling. Noah had seen it once before during a camping trip as a kid. His dad had said it was just summer heat fighting with cold water. But now, delivering pizzas on the midnight shift for Shoreline Slice in Livingston, Noah wasn't so sure. The ticket had come through at 12:41 a.m., 1 large pepperoni. Address: Cypress Bend Road, Lot 18, Lakeview Trailer Court Tip, $35. Note: Please don't knock. Just call out. We'll hear you. He'd never heard of a trailer court on Cypress Bend Road. The area backed straight up to the lake, mostly wooded lots, private docks, old vacation cabins. Some had burned in the 2011 wildfires and never been rebuilt. Still, he didn't question it. The tip alone made it worth the drive. As he pulled out of the shop, something tugged at him. A memory he couldn't place. Something about the address. something buried in that part of the lake. The roads were empty. The trees on either side of the road looked warped in his headlights, not bent, but angled slightly inward, as if growing toward the center, reaching. Listening. After 10 minutes, the pavement turned to gravel, then dirt. The lake came into view, still as glass. No wind. His GPS buzzed and failed. But up ahead, he saw it, a crooked metal sign swinging on rusted chains. Lakeview Trailer Court. Private. Trespassers will be removed. The word removed had been scratched and fresh. He drove in, rows of trailers, maybe 10 at most, all dark. All lifeless. Except lot 8. A single solar lantern flickered above the porch. He parked on the roadside, killed the engine, stepped out with the pizza. The lake behind the trailer was too quiet. Even the frogs weren't croaking. He stepped toward the porch, careful not to trip over a branch. And then he remembered. He'd been here before. Not delivering, boating. As a teenager. This was the area where they said a trailer had slid into the lake during a storm. Heavy rains, loose soil. The whole structure sank, dragging its occupants down with it. 2 people were found. The third, a boy, was never recovered. People said you could still hear him calling for help when the water was still. Noah shook the thought away. He reached the porch. No doorbell. The note had said not to knock. So he called out, "Pizza delivery." "I've got your order." Silence. Then a voice. Faint. Coming from inside the trailer. "Come in." He hesitated. Tried the door. It creaked open too easily. Inside, the air was cold. Colder than it should have been. Smelled like wet sheetrock. And mold. No lights. Only the glow of the lantern from outside bleeding in through the screen. He stepped in. Held the pizza out. "I'll just leave it here." "Stay." The voice again, but not in front of him. From below. From the floorboards. Something moved beneath them, a sound like shifting water in a bathtub. He backed up. The pizza box dropped from his hands. It landed upside down. A trail of dark water began to seep from the seams. Then a shape began to rise through the cracks in the floor. Not fast. Slow. Deliberate. Dripping. First fingers. Then a hand. Then a face, waterlogged, pale, eyes open but not seeing. The mouth open. No sound came out. Just bubbles. The trailer shook once, violently. The door slammed behind him. He turned, but there was no knob. Only water running down the walls now. The entire trailer was sinking, but there was no lake inside. Only the memory of drowning. The boy's voice echoed in his head, not through ears, but bones. "Help me, please." He tried to scream, but his voice failed. The floor gave way and he fell into water colder than death. Dark. Endless. He opened his eyes underwater and saw dozens of trailers suspended below, like houses in a forgotten suburb. Some still lit, some empty, some filled with shapes that watched without blinking. Then he gasped. Woke up. In his car, parked outside the pizza shop. No memory of the drive back. No pizza box, only his receipt still clutched in his hand. One line had been added: delivered. Payment received. Drowned souls fed. The sound of the bell came before the address. It was just past 11:55 p.m. when Darius heard it, low, distant, faint like an echo through fog. He was standing behind the counter at Smokey's Pizza, wiping down the register, half asleep from the graveyard shift, when it rang once, then twice. Then stopped. He didn't think anything of it until the ticket printed a few minutes later. It was blank. No name. No number. Only an address: San Pasqual Chapel Front Road, Old Blanco Trail, midnight. Sharp. Ring bell once. Enter when invited. The note had one line in small, perfect cursive. This is the last offering. Deliver hot. There was no payment. No tip, but the system showed paid in full. His manager, Marco, just frowned at the slip. Isn't that place gone? What place? San Pasqual? That chapel? Used to be way out on Old Blanco. Burned in the 60s. They never rebuilt it. My grandma used to say it still rang on certain nights. Darius laughed. You serious? Marco didn't answer. Just handed him the pizza box, plain cheese. No toppings. No receipt. Just go fast. Don't be late. The drive was long and dark. Old Blanco Trail hadn't been maintained in years. Most drivers avoided it, said their GPS acted funny, and sometimes the trees moved. But Darius was a city guy. He didn't care for ghost stories until the radio died. Then the GPS blinked out and the trees really did feel closer. He drove slower. Every mile past the city limit seemed to subtract light from the world. He passed a stone wall, broken. Then around the next bend he saw it. The chapel, small, blackened stone. No roof. Half the windows shattered. A wooden cross, charred and leaning. And above it, swinging from an invisible rope, a bronze bell with no tower to hold it. It rang once. The time, 12 a.m. He parked on the grass, careful not to let the headlights shine on the building too long. There were no doors, just a stone archway with scorched wooden remnants. He stepped out, pizza in hand, walked toward the entrance. The air felt thicker near the walls, like walking into another temperature. He reached the bell rope, pulled it once. It rang. Soft, but deep. Inside, candles flickered to life, dozens of them, arranged in a perfect circle on the chapel floor. No breeze, no wind, but the flames moved. They were breathing. A voice came from the darkness. Step in and place the offering. Darius's feet moved without permission. He walked into the circle, set the box down. And suddenly, the candles all extinguished at once. The air dropped 30 degrees. A figure stepped forward from the shadows behind the altar. Tall, thin, robed, in something that shimmered like oil on water. No face, just a blank space where one should have been. You are late. It whispered. No, Darius said. It's midnight. But the voice wasn't listening. I was promised heat. And you brought it lukewarm. I drove straight here. I didn't stop. The figure lifted a hand. From the floor, roots erupted. Dead vines. Thorny, dry, writhing toward him. Wait, but they didn't listen. They wrapped around his legs, pulled him down onto the scorched stones, and through them, he fell into darkness, into a cavern below the chapel where no light had touched in decades. The voice followed. The offering was late. So you will stay and keep it warm. He screamed. Above him, the chapel stood silent again. Candles cold. Pizza. Box unopened. But something inside it breathed. At 12:04 a.m. The bell rang again. One last time. And the chapel disappeared. Darius never came back. The pizza shop closed the fest. Next year, the bell still rings on certain summer nights, right at midnight. Locals say if you're quiet and you're driving near the old trail, you can hear the ringing and the whisper that follows, still too cold. By the time Reggie hit the edge of South Houston, the rain had already turned the streets into rivers. He wasn't even supposed to be working. His girlfriend had begged him to skip the late shift, said the storms would drown out half the city. But rent was due, and Big Cheese Pizza gave bonuses for storm runs. So there he was, 1:02 a.m., gripping the wheel of his beat-up Corolla while the wipers slapped water away, like they were drowning too. The ticket came in just before they closed the system. No phone number. One large mushroom and olive. Address 212 Brackland Street. Tip $1.40. No gate code. No apartment number. Just a note. Leave it on the hood. Don't wait. Reggie almost skipped it. But $40 in a storm? Worth 10 minutes. He turned down Bracklin. The first thing he noticed was the water.knee-deep street submerged. But the house was still visible in the headlights. White wood siding, sagging porch, American flag half drenched, and a beat-up silver Crown Vic in the driveway. He eased in. The water surged up around his wheels. Sloshed into the cab. The car sputtered once, but didn't die. He stopped 10 feet from the porch, kept the engine running, grabbed the pizza bag, opened the door slowly. Cold water flooded over his shoes. He cursed, took a few steps. The street wasn't just flooded, it was moving. Not like water should. It flowed around him. Yes, but also seemed to circle, pulling slightly to the left. Swirling, like a drain somewhere was pulling at it beneath the road. He got to the Crown Vic, laid the pizza box on the hood. Turned to leave. Then heard the knock. Not on a door. From below. He looked down. The water was still, quiet. Then another knock. Louder. Underneath. He leaned in, held his breath. Nothing. Then a face surfaced inches from his shins, eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. Gone in a flash. He stumbled back, splashing, almost dropping the pizza bag. Then something grabbed his ankle. Not hard. Just touched him. He kicked. Nothing there. The water was still again, but now colder. He turned back toward the car and saw himself sitting in the driver's seat. Not moving, just sitting. Staring. Soaked, pale. Mouth slowly opening. He screamed. Ran. The door was locked. He pounded on the glass. The figure inside moved, mimicking his exact movements, delayed by half a second, like a warped mirror. Then it smiled and began to sink. Even inside the car. Water rising up from under the seat, filling the windshield, filling the cabin. He backed up. The porch light flickered. Crown Vic's hood creaked. The pizza box was gone. In its place was a soaking wet note. One word: stay. He turned, ran back the way he came. The road behind him was longer now. He kept running. No end. No other houses. No cars. The world narrowed into two things: water and silence. Eventually, his phone buzzed once. A voicemail. Unknown number. He stopped, played it. His own voice whispered, "You're not out. You just think you are." Then the line clicked. He looked around, and the water was dry. His shoes, soaked. His car, parked on a different road. No memory of how he got there. Only the receipt in his cup holder. Time stamped 2:03. A.M. Tip $0. 00 total. Paid in full by water. Logan never questioned weird orders. In 5 years working for Slice and Run out of Denton, Texas, he delivered pizzas to construction zones, strip clubs, cemeteries, and once, no joke, to a casket showroom at 3 a.m. But this one felt off from the start. It came in through the app. No payment. No customer ID. Just call on one large Supreme. No onions. Delivery to 404 Neverturn Court. It pinged the system at exactly 1 a.m. He checked Google Maps. No such address. But the Slice In Run system accepted it anyway. The street coordinates dropped. A pin off a farm-to-market road about 10 miles outside of Denton, near old ranch land and a condemned elementary school. He asked the shift lead Jake if it was a mistake. Jake just shrugged. App says it's in zone. Take the cash bag just in case. And don't stay long. The system auto-clears the address after 30 minutes. Logan drove fast. The farther he got from town, the more the trees leaned in, oak and pine stretching like they were trying to hide. What lay ahead? The GPS went black at the county line. He followed the only road left, long, 2-lane, empty. Then, without warning, the pavement curved sharply and dropped into a perfect silent cul dash to dash sack dot never turn court. 5 houses, identical dot white, 2-story, black shutters dot each with a porch light on dot each driveway perfectly paved. Each front lawn freshly mowed dot. It was like a copy-paste neighborhood in the middle of nowhere, but there were no street signs dot no people dot no wind, only that faint smell, like wet drywall and lemons. Logan checked the receipt again. .404 never turn court, but none of the houses were numbered. He picked the one at the center dot. It felt right. He stepped onto the porch dot, held up the pizza. Before he could knock, the door opened dot. No sound, just air rushing out like the house had been holding its breath dot. Inside was clean dot. Too clean. Furniture perfectly arranged. Walls white and bare dot. No photos. No clutter. A low hum came from somewhere deep inside, steady and pulsing, like a heartbeat through concrete dot. He stepped inside. Hello? Silence. Then a voice from above. Upstairs. He froze. There was no one in sight. He looked up dot. At the top of the staircase, the shadows bent, warped, and a figure leaned forward just enough to be seen, but not enough to be known. Leave it at the foot of the stairs, it said. He obeyed dot. Placed the box on the bottom step. Thanks, he said. Backing toward the door dot. The figure didn't move, but the hum grew louder dot. Then the lights flickered dot. Once dot, twice dot, and then every house on the cul-de-sac, every one, opened their front doors at once, all at the same time. Logan turned, stepped back outside, and realized the other houses were copies of the one he'd just entered dot. Same porch dot. Same curtains, same rocking chair. Now, same figure standing in each doorway, all staring at him dot. All silent, all wrong. Their faces didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't blink dot. Then one by one, they whispered in unison, stay. He ran to his car. The engine turned once dot, twice dot, then stopped. The steering wheel turned on its own, slow, deliberate. The rearview mirror showed not his reflection, but the inside of the house. The pizza box was gone dot. In its place sat a black envelope, and written on it, in blood red ink, Delivery. Accepted. Welcome home, Logan. He left the car, ran back up the street. Only there was no street now dot. Just more cul dash to dash sacks dot. More copies dot. Every direction dot. No exit dot. No sky dot. Just endless silence, and front doors waiting to open. Logan was never seen again, but every so often, at exactly 1 a.m., an order comes through at slice and run dot. No onions dot. Cash preferred. Delivery to 404. Never turn court. And the app always says the same thing. Driver already en route.